Hey guys, it's time for another build and I'm so excited about this one. If you remember the square coffee table that I built not too long ago, I loved it so much that I decided to build a console table to match. And here's the design. I think this is gonna be such an easy build, and I'm only using 6 2x6s and 2 2x4s, so the price is really inexpensive to build this. Let's head out to the shop and get building. All right, so I've got the base pieces cut for this console table, and now I'm going to start by assembling the base. This is the bottom runner. I've already drilled 1.5 inch pocket holes on each end, so I'm gonna start right there, and I'm attaching one leg to each end, and I'm gonna use 2.5 inch pocket hole screws and wood glue to do that. All right, so I'm adding wood glue to the end of this bottom runner, and I'm attaching it to one leg. It'll be flush at the bottom, so they'll both sit on the ground, and I'm attaching with 2.5 inch pocket hole screws. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Now, if this design looks familiar, I built a coffee table a couple of months ago with the exact same design, and I loved it. I loved how rustic it was and how clean the lines were. So I decided it would be a great console table. And if I'm not sick of the design by the time I'm done with this console table, I plan to make a dining table with kind of the same design. Okay, easy enough. So we're right here, right now, 2 end legs and the main runner. Now I'm just gonna get the measurements for the center of this so that I can put the front and back legs on. Okay, so I'm marking right now where to center the tiny runners on this bottom runner, and that's gonna be at 26. And you do not need to remember that because we always have the free printable plans on our website, and I am linking those in the description box below. So I've got the little runners, and I've drilled 1.5 inch pocket holes on one side of these, both ends. And those are gonna center right on the center of this bottom runner. I'm using wood glue and 2.5 inch pocket hole screws to attach. Okay, I've got one side down. Now I'm going to flip it over and do the next side. I did that wrong. Dang it. Okay, do as I say, not as I do. Pocket holes need to face down. So I just attached it with my pocket holes facing up. You want to make sure that your pocket holes are going to face down on this piece, and I'm glad I figured that out before I moved on, or the glue dried. Okay, all set, moving on. I'm going to flip it around and attach the other small runner the exact same way. Pocket holes down. Okay, small pieces are on. Now it's time to add the other 2 legs, the front and back. I think I'm gonna flip this upside down. So I'm using wood glue right here. I'm also using 2.5 inch pocket hole screws. Turning out to be, I hate to say it because I always jinx myself, but it's turning out to be a really simple build. Once this base is done, it's just a matter of planking the 3 planks for the top and then trimming it out. So we'll see when we get to the trim part how everything works, but so far it's very, very basic. Okay, base is done. That was so simple. Now it's time for me to plank the top, and then once I trim it, the table's done. So this is a very basic build. Now I am planking the console tabletop, and this is just 3 2x6 boards that I have ripped down to 5 inches wide. All of the boards that I built this table with, I ripped the round edges off. So these are 5 inches wide, and I've drilled 1.5 inch pocket holes in one side of both of these, 2 sides of this one, and then all of them have pocket holes on the ends. Now the reason that this one has pocket holes on both sides is so I can attach the trim around the edges. So my pocket holes are going to attach each other to these boards going this way. This one will go into the trim, this one will go into the trim, and these will go into the trim. Now I moved this onto the workbench because my boards are a little bit wonky and I want to use my face clamp to get a nice smooth joint between each plank. And I said I drilled 1.5 inch pocket holes, and I'm attaching these boards with 2.5 inch pocket hole screws. And I will add a link on our website where you can find the plans for this face clamp. It is a lifesaver. We use it every time we plank boards for tabletops. We get so many questions. How do you get your tabletops so smooth? Do you sand them? Do you plane them? We do sand so that we can stain and have a smooth top, but as far as keeping it really nice and smooth between the planks, that's with the face clamp. So I'll attach at one joint, and then I will move the boards and move my clamp and clamp it right above where that pocket hole is. I believe it's $35 on Amazon, and it is one of the most used accessory tools that I have in my shop. So it's definitely worth the investment, and one is enough. You don't need more than one. Okay, I've already got 2 boards planked together. I'm gonna go back and add the third. I'm so excited, I'm almost done with this table. One of the easiest builds I've done. Okay, tabletop is planked. Super easy, super fast, and you can see how smooth my joints are in between each plank, and that is all from that face clamp. Time for trim. Now I'm attaching the base to the tabletop, and I've moved the tabletop to the ground, flipped it upside down, and I'm going to center the base over it. And I've already marked where center is for the front and the back legs, and I have pocket holes. I'll show you. I drilled my pocket holes to go into that leg and into this leg. Those are 1.5 inch pocket holes. So I'm going to attach the front and the back legs first, and I'm using 2.5 inch pocket hole screws and a little bit of wood glue to attach. Okay, I've got the front and the back on. Now I'm going to go to the sides, and these are easy to center up because they are going to line up with that middle plank. Same thing, a little bit of wood glue and 2.5 inch pocket hole screws. Alright, easy enough. I've got the top attached, and now it's just time to trim it out. Alright, so I'm starting the trim now, and the trim is just 2x4s that I've ripped to 3 inches wide to get the round edges off of each one. I've decided that I want my corners to be mitered so it's nice and smooth and clean. So I went ahead and got a scrap piece of the 2x4, and I cut a 45-degree angle off of one end so that I could measure the size that I need. We always get the question, how do you measure for your trim pieces? How do you measure and cut as you go for the miter cuts? This is how I do it for trim. 45 degrees cut first. I'm going to flip it upside down. I'll show you. So I cut this too long. I cut a 45-degree piece off of one end, and then I just cut a square end off of the other one too long. But I'm going to go ahead and line the corner up with the edge of my tabletop, and then I'm going to make a line where I want that piece to stop. So that's how I'm going to get an exact cut. Now I always go over a little bit on this corner right there because I always end up cutting it too short. So you can always cut shorter, you can't cut longer. So now that I've got my measurement, I'm going to take this over to the saw, and I'm just going to make that straight cut right there to make it fit. Alright, that is a perfect fit. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing for each corner piece of the table. Okay, so quick tip on how to make these 45-degree cuts really easy on your 2x4. I like to use, instead of using a bevel, because this is technically a bevel cut, which would have me tilt the saw this way instead to get that 45-degree cut, I turn my 2x4 right side up against the fence, move my miter to 45 degrees, and make the cut like that. I've got all the small trim pieces cut, so now I'm going to go back and attach each piece using wood glue and 2-inch brad nails. Okay, so I've got all 4 of the corner pieces of trim attached, and now I'm going to measure and cut for the front and the back trim pieces and attach them the exact same way. So on this one, since I have those 45-degree marks on the shorter pieces, I can line it up where it's supposed to hit, and it makes measuring for the perfect cut a little bit easier. And I always go a little bit longer on my first cut. So now I'm going to attach these the exact same way I did the little guys with 2-inch brad nails and wood glue. That was maybe one of the easiest console tables I've built. Now I've just got to sand it down and give it a finish.